Welcome to another flip video lesson with Mr. Volkman. Today's flip video is going to go over all of chapter 6. So the flip video might be a little longer than normal. So if you find yourself getting a little extra fidgety, or that you just kind of start... Oh, there you are. If you start spacing out a little bit, I encourage you to pause the video and take a little break. This flip video is going to go over 4 empires of Mesopotamia. The first 4 empires, in fact. Now again, this video is meant for educational purposes, so if there's anything you don't understand, please make sure you hit that pause button. Let's begin, shall we? First off, we are going to talk about the Akkadian Empire. Each empire we talk about is going to be split up into 2 different parts. We'll first give some basic details about the empire itself, and then a few basic details about what life may have been like looking at the empire. So the Akkadian Empire came actually from northern Mesopotamia, which is kind of up here a little bit. Sargon was the first king of the Akkadian Empire, and he also could be debated was the greatest of the kings. And you could say he was the greatest of the kings because he said his sons would rule after him. It wouldn't just be Sargon's a king, he dies, and it's all up for grabs. No, his sons would be next. Now he controlled all of Mesopotamia, and he was able to do this by doing 3 little things. First, he was able to conquer all the city-states in Sumer. Second, he had those city-states destroy their walls. Because remember, walls are made to protect themselves from invading neighbors. Lastly, the governors of the city-states had to pledge loyalty to the king, or else. And I'll let you guess what that or else was. Now, Agad was the capital of the Akkadian Empire. Now, the Akkadians kept many parts of Sumerian culture. For example, they kept the Sumerian religion, they kept cuneiform. Now, the Akkadians were known for their 3D sculptures called steles. I'm not sure how to pronounce it quite yet. This here is a very well-known Akkadian stele. It's called the Victory Stele. Now, the Akkadian Empire lasted 200 years, and it collapsed because, well, it got too big for its britches, and it was just too much to control. Next, we have the Babylonian Empire. And Hammurabi united the Mesopotamian city-states that came back into being after the Akkadian Empire fell apart. Babylon was the capital of this empire. It also became the cultural center for the Babylonian Empire. Something pretty cool that Hammurabi did to kind of cement his power of the empire was to create the Code of Hammurabi. And this was a set of laws that he said were from the gods, and it was meant to unify his empire together. It also created order throughout the empire as well. Now, Marduk was the main god of the Babylonian Empire. This was the god that they went to when they really wanted something to happen, I guess. The Babylonians had many innovations that they created to bring their empire together. First off, they created roads. You know, it makes it way easier to get from one city-state or city to the next city. They also created a postal service. Now, I wonder if they lost letters too. Maybe they had FedEx or Babylonian X. They also traded throughout the Middle East region. And they brought new materials in for their artisans to create different items. Now, their society was also unusually fair for empires and different people groups of this time. Slaves, for example, could buy their freedom, and they could also own land. Women also had more rights, and they were actually able to keep some of their own money that they made. The next empire was the Assyrian Empire. And actually, the Assyrians had somewhat of a smaller empire before Hammurabi was able to come in and control all the city-states after the Akkadians. Now, the Assyrians lived north. You're starting to see a pattern here. People living north, coming south. They'd also been in Mesopotamia for quite a while. Now the Assyrians were great fighters and they were skilled in warfare. They used horses and iron weapons. They had siege warfare where they would surround cities and they would stay there. And they would effectively choke off any resources that were coming into the city to help keep people alive. They had battering rams. They had towers that you could move next to walls. And then they moved people they conquered. Mr. Volkman? Yeah? I'm conquering you. You need to move. But I'm doing a video here. It doesn't matter. Move! Okay, Mr. Mint. Move, Mr. Volkman, move! Can I come back now? Whew, Mr. Mint, he's hardcore. Now Nineveh, way up here, was the capital of the Assyrian Empire. And they built a huge palace to honor the king, who was seen as kind of a special being, special person. Now the Assyrians continued using irrigation for farming, but they also added something called aqueducts. And aqueducts were used to transport water long ways, long distances. They're also known for their bas reliefs, which was a 2D, two-dimensional sculpture. And here's an example, close-up example of one. It almost looks like the sculpture is leaping off the rock. Ivory was also used for decoration. The Assyrian Empire stretched from the Persian Gulf all the way to Egypt. Unfortunately, though, they had the same problem as the Akkadians. They grew to be too big for their britches, and the empire was just too big to control, and the Assyrian Empire fell apart. So sad. The final empire we'll talk about is the Neo-Babylonian. Neo meaning new. Now they rose to power after Nineveh fell, after the Assyrian Empire fell. The most famous ruler of the Neo-Babylonians was Nebuchadnezzar. I've heard this name pronounced multiple ways. I'm sure there's a right way to say it, and I'm sure someone in my class will tell me when they see me next. Now he expanded the Babylonian Empire. As you can see, it's a lot bigger than the previous Babylonian Empire. He also strengthened the capital of Babylon. And he did this by doubling the walls. They're so big that you could drive 2 chariots side by side. He also had moats built around the capital. He rebuilt the Great Ziggurat, and remember, this is what a ziggurat looks like. He created the Hanging Gardens, which are well known, one of the ancient wonders of the world. Their mathematicians and astronomers were extremely skilled, and yet they only lasted 75 years. Not very long. Anyways, thank you for watching this flip video. You're going to be reading more about these 4 empires in the coming days in class. Now please make sure you go to Edmodo and do the assignment that has been posted for you to complete. Thank you, and I'll see you in class tomorrow. Mr. Volkman! Yeah? I told you to move! You've been conquered!